Hello guys, Kevin Esther here, back after how long on YouTube exile? 8 years I guess. Anyway, I'd like to give awareness to a certain silent genocide that's been happening since the 20th century. None of color, race, sex, ethnicity, or religion, which the danger of ethnic cleansing does still need to be aware. But ours is still ignored and even defended to this day. Autistic genocide. While white supremacists whine about how diversity and multiculturalism will lead to the downfall of Western civilization and the so-called decline of the right race, autistic people are being wiped out by the society that see them as misfits, unworthy of life. Autistic people have a higher mortality rate than other neurotypicals since they are more likely to commit suicide at a young age. Autistic children are more likely to be abused by their parents and could probably die more from that abuse. And autistic people are more likely to be unemployed in the career sector. However, there's more. Organizations like Autism Speaks thinks they are helping us, but in reality support our genocide by demonizing us as mistakes, defectives, freaks, and walking liabilities with their ads, putting billions of donation money on research for a cure we never asked for. But Kevin, autistic people need to be cured. Autism makes people's lives worse. It hinders their everyday life. It's a serious disease, and everyone with autism would want to have a cure to be normal and live normal lives. You don't speak for the rest of them. Well, this graph chart says otherwise, that autistic people would actually refuse being cured. Autism is not a tragic disease similar to dementia, schizophrenia, or bipolar disorder, and cannot be cured and will not be cured. Autism is a part of us. It is who we are from birth to death. Curing autism will be stripping us of our identity and our unique neurological wiring, ridding us of who we are. And autism is more than just a neurological disorder. Surprisingly, it is also a type of genetic mutation. Most origins of autism came from genes
if you
and
like
not
nuts
eating
like
bad
me.
food or vaccines.
What?
Dead.
Many types of genetic mutations have contributed to autism spectrum disorder. And with this mutation, it gives us many gifts from using our curiosity and knowledge to our advanced imagination and creativity. It had shown that autism has unique and gifted skills thanks to examples of some famous autistic people. And believe it or not, had played an important role in human evolution. Research showed that some autistic genes were part of a shared ape heritage, which led us to now Homo sapiens. Cavemen that displayed autistic traits thousands of years ago would have been both accepted and greatly respected by man's early society than today. Because of our memory skills and heightened senses enhanced our understanding of nearby nature, such as animal behavior, these traits and skills of early autistic people played a role in the survival of the tribe. There's even evidence that our early autistic relatives made cave paintings like found in the Chavet cave in France, thanks to us being talented and creative artists. And other than art, autistic people and hunter-gatherer societies had also helped them become more advanced and created a better social network. Because of our intelligence and logical problem solving turned our first humans into what we are today, and without us, humanity would have barely evolved. However, after many generations, we became the ancestral saviors of humanity to people that can't adapt to the new neurotypical world and are considered a disease that must disappear. Our brothers and sisters are conditioned to conform to what neurotypical society wants us to be by treating us like dogs with their ABA therapies, torturing us with their shock collars by the Judge Rotenberg Center, and poisoning us with their bleach cures, which these parents would gladly support. But our genocide isn't just biologically or physically, but also socio-economically. Capitalism, of course, made our lives a living nightmare by giving us jobs we don't like and in the same time not good at it, punishing us by making us poor or homeless for existing. 1/3 of autistic children in the USA live in poverty, and the result might lead to a high mortality rate in children by either lack of essential needs or by abuse and neglection by the parents of the autistic child. Capitalism has made autistic people's lives worse by any means for the sake of profit. I can talk more on how capitalism makes our lives a bloody hell, but it would be too much to list the reasons on how it is. But the point is to state our future in silent genocide collaborate by not just Autism Speaks, but by our parents, teachers, our government, capitalists, conservatives, neo-Nazis, and fascists, in which, what a surprise, Autism Speaks has also aligned with. You might be saying, this is just a minor coincidence. There is no autistic genocide against us. Minor coincidence, you say? Was the American eugenics movement of the 1920s minor? Was the Nazis' Action T4 program minor? This isn't the first time neurotypicals wanted us to disappear, and it won't be the last. So Kevin, what should we do? We can protest peacefully, create self-advocacy organizations for autistic people like ASAN, start blogs, videos, and public demonstrations, ask fellow neurotypicals to join our cause, and spread our message for acceptance and better understanding for autistic people. No, reform is not the answer. ASAN in some ways is more like the NAACP for autistic people. You shouldn't be acting like Martin Luther King or another example, Professor X from X-Men, where the answers for systemic mutant oppression, which has some similarity with our autistic oppression, is by protecting and serving our non-mutant oppressors from harm, thinking that they will be accepted into society even though that's not the case. The real answer is Magneto. You see, Magneto, which is the anti-villain of the X-Men world, uses other means of action, like what fallen black activist Malcolm X, the inspiration for Magneto, had promoted: radical violence. Instead of peaceful ways, reform and coexisting with our non-mutant oppressors, like what Professor Charles Xavier attended, Magneto believed that mutants should violently rise up against systemic mutant oppression, whatever means, similar to other black militants of the Black Panther Party of the 1960s. Some of Magneto's actions had worked, even though they were failed by the genoist bootlicking X-Men. The point that I'm making is that instead of being more like Professor X, we should be more like Magneto. But Kevin, you psychopath. Magneto is a terrorist that hurts people. Violence is not the answer. I have a question for you. Have you ever talked to Brother Magneto? We autistics have the same pain as Magneto, and like him, shouldn't depend on reform. Revolution and radical action must happen if we want to prevent our own non-existence. Our genocide isn't happening out of fear, but the idea that the human species must be exactly pure and flawless to either create a so-called perfect master race or an obedient working class. To have more nuance on what I'm talking about, please watch Philosophy Tube's video on why Magneto was right, which the link is on the description below. However, if violent resistance isn't your forte, then I recommend a new type of nationalism. In the Marvel Comics, Magneto liberated the mutant apartheid nation of Genosha, turning the nation into a place where mutants are free from anti-mutant discrimination. Just like Malcolm X had envisioned a separated, sovereign black populated nation state, most of Magneto's plans for Genosha was inspired from black nationalism and black separatism. But it's not the similar ideas of regular nationalism like white nationalism. The idea is to create our own society, our own nation, free from our own oppression and genocide, just like Malcolm X and Magneto had envisioned. A neurodivergent only nation with our own rules, government, economy, and original culture without it being erased from neurotypicals and organizations like Autism Speaks, along with others that collaborate with these organizations that wish us to be eradicated to benefit their worthless vision of pure family values. Now, I do want to acknowledge my part telling you to use a harsh, violent revolution. You don't have to use violence if you don't want to. You don't have to act like Magneto most of the time. Self-defense is an alternative method. But if we want to have full rights from our oppression, a silent eradication reform is not the way. We cannot change the system by just using the ballot, petitions, and picket signs, but by using torches and pitchforks or a different solution, a flag on a land. But Kevin, isn't equality important? Yes, it is. But what's the point if our society will do anything in their power to prevent that from happening? Not to mention, our idea of a neurodivergent nation state is not the same as Israel's mass oppression of Palestinians, but more of creating a nation where marginalized people like us live together in peace and equality, thanks to the greatest autistic minds our mutation has to offer. We can create laws to protect people like us from discrimination and structural violence. Start an economy that puts people's needs first rather than for profit. Invent new types of tech, art, and medicine that can help people, and more. If you want to learn more and participate in our cause, here is a link to a subreddit group on the description below. And yeah, it's cheesy that it's from Reddit, but go please check it out. I understand that left intersectionality movements are a thing and more better than the idea that I impose. But the thing is that intersectionality doesn't actually advocate much for us. And in fact, most leftists would actually believe autistic people should also be cured. We shouldn't be dependent on neurotypicals helping us, like how Malcolm X never depend on white people for help, or Magneto never depend on non-mutants for help. If we want to avoid our silent annihilation, autistic nationalism and autistic separatism is the only way to live a life of self-expression and continue your passion to do something you like. We cannot continue to live in a society that wants us to change or erase our mutation. Our traits make us who we are, and if we let genocidal organizations like Autism Speaks cure us, we wouldn't be the way we are. I have also read an interesting manifesto someone made. Again, the link is in the description below. Anyway, thank you for coming to my TED Talk conference, and I will make videos like this in the future.